So I just wanted to share a thought that I had about COVID-19 and factory farms. In fact, it's not a thought I had. It's a thought like most of our thoughts. Either stolen from someone else or come from exposure to things that we've got. It's pretty much impossible to have an original thought. But anyway. There was a comedian in the United States, unfortunately I don't know his name, who was drawing a connection between COVID-19 restrictions and how we're trying to reduce the infection rate with COVID-19 through social distancing, good hygiene, early identification of disease and then isolating people who have the disease. And he was making the extremely valid point that this is the exact opposite of what factory farms are. In factory farms, the animals are crowded on top of each other, thousands of animals. Their immune systems are actually weakened because they're all of the same genetic sort of predisposition because they've been bred to produce meat very, very quickly. The conditions are extremely unhygienic, because it's accepted that a certain number of animals are going to die. That's just part of the business model. Those animals that die can't be kept up with in terms of being cleared away, and so animals are just standing on other dead animals. They're standing in their own urine and feces. They're eating the animals that have died around them of some disease or other, even though the animals are fed routinely antibiotics to try and keep infection down and increase growth rates. Of course, there's an attrition, but that's what they call, collateral damage. Even in wars involving humans. If you kill a few civilians and women and children, it's unfortunate. It's just collateral damage. Well, it's even less concern when animals die in factory farms. It's just part of the economic business model, economies of scale. So I just want to talk a little bit about that, and probably people may not be aware that there are 90 billion farmed animals on the planet, and we are justly and rightly concerned about 7.5 billion humans. It's actually too many for the planet, but 90 billion farmed animals is a much bigger problem because the environmental degradation involved of having that many farmed animals is huge in terms of habitat destruction, erosion of soil, water pollution and the amount of water usage that animals have, and the general inefficiency of producing food by having the goodness that comes from the sun and from the soil into plants going through the middleman in terms of the animal and then adding a huge amount of water. And unfortunately these days more and more feedlots and industrialised factory farms adding a lot of medication as well to the animals and then feeding them to human beings. It's completely inefficient. And people would say, if we didn't have 90 billion animals, how could we feed the world? Well, we could feed the world more efficiently than what we're feeding the world now. There's not a problem about having enough food. In countries like America, the vast amount of plants, soybeans and corn that's grown is actually fed to animals and not fed to human beings. But the thing that's come into sharp focus, besides all of this environmental degradation and the huge problem of global warming, is the fact that factory farms are breeding grounds for diseases which can come from animals to human beings. And if you think back, you know, bird flu, swine flu, MERS, SARS, they've all come from animals to human beings. And intensive animal agriculture is the pathway, or inappropriate exposure to animals being crowded together is the pathway, either by wet markets or by intensive farming practices. So COVID-19 has thrown this into sharp relief, the fact that treating animals this way and eating animals this way, all because animals are cheap if we produce them in this industrialized way, is actually a risk to human health. And it's hard to get your head around, you know, figures like, you know, 90 billion animals, farmed animals on the planet, 70 billion animals killed every year for humans to eat. But if you just think about the COVID-19 outbreak in the United States, there's been around just over 50,000 people have died in the United States from COVID-19. And that's like a jumbo jet full of 600 people crashing every day, and all the people on board dying ever since, you know, COVID-19 has broken out. And that's just 50,000 numbers. I mean, it's impossible to kind of get your head around 70 billion. And remembering that a billion is 1,000 million, you know, it really is just kind of mind-boggling. So it just highlights that fact that factory farms are a ticking time bomb. They've already killed, you know, I'm not sure how many people, but many, many, many people. It's probably millions since factory farms have really taken off in the 70s. But they're going to, unless we change the way we raise animals for food, they're going to kill a lot more. If you want to find out more about factory farms, go to Michael Greger, and he has a talk on pandemics, which he recorded about 10 years ago. He's also got 2 documentaries, one's called Bird Flu, one's called Swine Flu, where he talks about factory farms are the perfect breeding ground for viruses to be able to proliferate and then jump into human beings. Thanks.